Dance, skill, choreography, beauty, and music. It's like a different world, magical and inspiring. Kazakhstan, inside of classics. At work, again, we're together from morning till night. We spend time together both at lessons and rehearsals. Indeed, I'm calm wherever she is. It turns out we're always close. We are one art, one thought. Together, we advance. I wasn't particularly asked. At the age of 7, they said you would go to music school to study violin. At that moment, I still did not know. I don't know if my father wouldn't be an opera singer or another artist. I would probably be there too with him. Their fates are intertwined with the art. They're always together, both at home and at work. It would seem only recently they were children, and today they're already bright stars of the theatrical world. I don't remember the day and the weather because we were absolutely children. This happened in the city of Almaty, at the Seleznov Choreographic School, where we met. We studied there and grew up together. We met as friends. He was very calm and restrained. I didn't pay attention to him. Accidental acquaintance in the school grows into a great love. Young people who dream of a big stage decided to go to a dream together, holding their hands tight. Rustem certainly is a very persistent person. I respect him very much as a man. The first thing he did, he came up and said, "You will marry me." Of course, I was surprised. After graduation, they came to conquer the capital. In Astana, a city where all dreams come true, they started their own family. At the time, the artists of the ballet were recruited, and there were not enough ballet dancers. The graduate class of 2000, when Asel graduated, I studied a year younger, and they had only 6 boys in their class. For the opening of the ballet troupe, this of course was a very small number, and they asked us boys from our class, and of course I agreed, and maybe it really was a fate. Then they started their family life, full of creativity and inspiration. In difficult moments, they're always there. They support each other in everything, rejoice at successes of each other. Asel grew up in a family where they always honored Kazakh traditions. She tried to make her husband always feel her care and attention. Rustem for her is the real head of the family. The two of us are very happy about what we achieve, but I originally wanted him to be the head of my family. For girls, our dad is our first pride, and I need him to be stronger than me. Of course, I could become a leader, but I don't need it. Asel's opinion for me is, of course, very important. This person is very close to me. She's very dear to me. I understand that she only wants to help and wants only the best for me. So, of course, I listen to all the advice and analyze it myself. Rustem is the leading soloist of the Theater Astana Opera. He performs the main parts in various productions, investing all his souls into each role, trying to play it as realistically as possible. After an internship in the famous La Cliff, now he shares his experience with nouveau artists. Well, from the last brightest premieres of the ballet, it's Manon, with Kenneth and Macmillan, a stunning performance, where I danced the main part of Cavalier de Greux. This is one of my most favorite performances. Both in life and on stage, Rustem and Asel are reliable partners, constant, and the most important viewers of the productions with their participation are their children. At the Nutcracker, we danced together. It was very comfortable. He was very careful with me, and sometimes we laughed. The star couple has 2 daughters. They are fond of rhythmic gymnastics. Girls don't miss a single performance with the participation of their parents. Of course, it's touching and exciting when your kids are sitting in the audience. You worry, and then after the show, they tell you, "Dad, Dad, you did that." Then we laugh and discuss their performance. Well, the favorite film of Asel is The Fifth Element, with her favorite actor, Bruce Willis. Since my favorite actor is Bruce Willis, my favorite movie is The Fifth Element. His favorite movie, it's not much to be surprised, but The Avatar. I would say mine probably The Hobbit. If we're talking about women, it is Altanay Abdohimovna Asilmuratova. It is uncontested. And if for men, it's Mikhail Baryshnikov. Of course, my idol is Altanay Abdohimovna. She is such a person. She came down from our prayers. Rustem and Asel share common goals and dreams. The love of art and theater was their destiny forever. Most likely, not an accident, because I was born in a creative family. My parents are respected professional people. In the past, there were ballet dancers and teachers. Gauhar grew up in a creative family. Her parents are well-known ballet dancers in our country, Yildoz and Vasilia Usins. Usin Yildoz Ashimovich left a bright mark in the history of Kazakhstan's choreography. He's one of the first Kazakhstani people who entered the Agrippina Vaganova Leningrad Choreography School. He worked on the same stage with such a world-famous dancer as Rudolf Nureyev. For many years, he was the teacher of the Seleznov Almaty School of Choreography. Besides, he was the artistic director of Ensemble Saltanat and Gulder. The participant of the ensemble Gulder was his wife, Vasilia Usina. It is not surprising that children who grow up and brought up in such an environment in the future, too, choose a creative path. All my childhood passed in the backstage. I remember all the smells. I remember my mother's beauty kit. I looked at all this and I liked to wear all these costumes. Girls always love everything beautiful and reach for beauty. Since childhood, seeing beautiful and elegant dancers around her, Gauhar also decided to become an actress. One day, my father took me to work with him. There was no one to live his daughter with, and he said, "Today you will go to my work." I really liked the atmosphere. Little beautiful girls were running around with their slick hair. I liked it, and the next day, I told my dad that I liked it, and I can't come back again. Parents for Gauhar were an example in everything. She always wanted to achieve the same success in the profession. After graduating from the Seleznov Choreography School, since 1998 and 2001, she worked at the Abay Academic Opera and Ballet Theater in Almaty. After gaining some experience in 2001, she left to conquer Moscow. I had great experience in Moscow. It affected me greatly. I got stronger. I learned a lot of performances and I came back to Almaty. When I came to Astana, I was already a strong ballerina. Upon returning to her homeland, she becomes the leading soloist of the Kulash Baisitova Theater, where she successfully performs the main roles in all the productions of the theater. Her skill grew with every passing day. I had a dream to dance Carmen, and this dream came true, and I'm very happy, especially such a significant, famous production of Roland Petit. From the very childhood, the fate of her brother, Jibek, was decided too. Parents have always dreamed that children will necessarily follow in their footsteps. Today, Jibek Usin is a soloist of the Abay Theater. He trained in Russia and Turkey. Gauhar is very proud of the success of her brother. She's sure a bright future is waiting for him. We certainly support each other. When we call to each other, we can say only special things we say to each other. I'm very glad that he has such a success, both in ballet and in his family. Well, when I'm in Almaty, I always come, and if he dances, I always come to see him. To be honest, I'm so worried about it. It's easier for me to dance myself, because I worry so much for him, so he won't drop his partner, but he always seems calm. Their father always placed high goals before Gauhar and Jibek, not only instructing them but also directing them on their way to success. All their current achievements are connected with it. His upbringing and advice became the basis of their success on the stage. Of course, I would get hurt and cry. I thought that he was doing it on purpose, that I'm not as good as I thought. I would come home and say, "Why are you so strict with me?" And he would say, "On the contrary, I only want the good things for you." Now, when I'm older, I understand this. Gauhar and Jibek are worthy successors of the Usin dynasty. Ahead of them are still great heights in the world of art, but their names are already firmly established in the history of the country's theatrical life. Constant concerts, and they had no one to look after me when they were gone. When I was a boy, they would take me to different concerts. I listened to all these quartets, duets, chamber music in my childhood. I was even singing it. My parents heard it. They said that I was humming Schumann. Alan Askarovich has an unusual fate. He simply had no other way, because he was born in a family of great musicians. From his earliest childhood, he listened to masterpieces of world classics. Well, Ahmet Zhubanov is my great-grandfather. Unfortunately, I didn't know him. His children, my grandfather, was an outstanding chemist, Volod Zhubanov. I remember him as my grandfather, but he really was an outstanding chemist. Ahmet Zhubanov, composer, conductor, musicologist, ethnographer, people's artist of the Kazakh SSR. In 1934, he organized the Orchestra of Kazakh Folk Instruments, now known as Kurmangazi Kazakh State Academic Orchestra of Folk Instruments. He headed the State Conservatory in Almaty and the mission of opening the Zhambul Kazakh State Philharmonic. The development of the Kazakh musical culture is forever associated with the name of this outstanding academician composer. He is the author of the opera Abay, written together with the composer Latif Hamidi, as well as symphonic works, March of Memory of Kurmangazi and Jeskiik. These and many other works of Zhubanov made an invaluable contribution to the development of the musical art of Kazakhstan. Alan's father is Askar Buryubayev, a famous cellist in our country. His mother was a pianist. At one time, they performed as a duet. Later, his father for many years was a member of the state quartet. First of all, my parents, my father, he is a man of integrity. He always requires a good quality work from himself and from others. In this regard, he is for me a moral compass. And my mother, she's a very gentle person, but at the same time very fair. I'm grateful to both of my parents. Initially, parents sent Alan to a violin class at the Kulash Baisitova Almaty College of Music. But already at the age of 13 or 14, he had an interest in conducting. Father supported his choice because he believed that Alan would make a more talented conductor than the violinist. I remember I was 13 years old, and for my birthday, I asked to give me a symphonic score. Not a typical children's toys. Then they gave me a symphony of Beethoven, a symphony of Brahms. They very much encouraged this. Since childhood, Alan has always developed a desire to constantly learn something new. Perhaps he was influenced by his environment, because he grew up in a creative family. Once he told his parents that he wanted to know 5 languages at once. We lived in Greece. I learned Greek language. I studied Italian and French. I'm very glad that I had such a base. Now it helps me a lot when I work with opera. We put Italian operas, French, German. I understand the lyrics. In connection with the work of his father, they moved to Greece. Here, Alan gets acquainted with the masterpieces of foreign classics. During years of life in this country, he forms his own, more professional view of music and art in general. Very often we would have a fierce debate. I remember once we were in Greece with my father and we sat down and discussed the score to Mendelssohn's Italian Symphony, and we had a fight. Then we did not talk for 3 days. Very often we have creative disagreement. In addition to Alan, there is another conductor in the Buribaev dynasty, the 22-year-old Elmar Buribaev. He is a diploma winner of the conductors competition held in Romania. Brothers musicians often exchange opinions on professional activities, helping each other's work. Well, when all members of musical family get together, then a new work necessarily appears. There is such a thing when Gaziza Zhubanova was sitting with everyone at a table, then she excused herself and came back in a few minutes with a score. Alan is a talented musician and a worthy representative of the younger generation of the dynasty. He acquaints the foreign audience with the works of his famous grandfather. In Germany, under his leadership, Ahmed Zhubanov's famous opera Abay sounded in a new way. He gave the name of the great poet Abay to his son. My son is very funny. As soon as you turn on the music, he begins to conduct like this, instantly, and classical. He was doing it when he was just born, and now he's a 1-year-old.
Я, можно сказать, из серии «Театральный ребенок», который провел все свое детство в помещении театра.
I can say that I'm a theatrical child. I spent my childhood in the theater. I certainly was at many of his performances. Children, in spite of its rank, he represented children's performances.
Принимал участие в детских представлениях.
People's artists of Kazakhstan also grew up in a musical family. Father, the famous opera singer Shura Umbetaliyev, mother, a pianist. Dolores is the first child in their family, and the only one who followed in the footsteps of her parents.
Сейчас я работаю только в театре. Конечно, все эти годы была параллельная работа в хореографическом училище, Академия музыки.
Now I work only in the theater. Of course, all these years, in parallel, there were other work, school, musical academy. But going to this theater, there was no time for extra work. You are completely submerged, and time flies without a thought.
И время пролетает и незаметно, и даже мысли не возникает.
Like many children of musical families, Dolores studied at the Collage Baisitova Music School in Almaty. Then she graduated from the conservatory.
У меня было 4 квалификации в дипломе, но я пошла больше по квалификации.
I had 4 qualifications in the diploma, but I followed my qualification of concertmaster. Probably because during my studies, I studied to perform with my father at concerts, at various events, and his solo concerts. I studied my creative work with him.
То есть я начала как бы свою такую творческую деятельность именно с ним.
Spending a lot of time with her father, she saw his love for art. This made her start her own journey to the artistic world. His blessing and invaluable advice helped her to succeed in the world of art.
В моей жизни
In my life, naturally, there are such moments mentally. I always turn to my father. When he passed away, every time I had to perform at a big, important events, I always asked him for support. And I felt, and thank God, I was lucky. The luck was always with me.
Слава Богу, мне везло. А просто вот удача всегда вот присутствовала.
Due to certain circumstances, Dolores Umbitalieva lived in Kyrgyzstan for 10 years, where she married and started her family. In those years, she worked in the theater of Bishkek Opera and Conservatory.
И так получилось, что
And it so happened that in the Opera House of Bishkek, I got a job as an accompanist, not in an opera troupe, but in a ballet. I came to the theater and I started to work in the ballet. It was a momentous, unusual, well, also I had to learn a lot. When she came back home, she received an invitation to work at the Abai Opera and Ballet Theater. For Dolores, this temple of art means a lot. After all, it was here where, for more than 40 years, her famous father worked. Only crossing the threshold of the theater, and immediately warm memories came up in her memory. Today, Dolores is an accompanist in the capital's theater. Under her leadership, many young artists have repeatedly won various competitions. A lot depends on the accompanist, but I want to say, again, a good soloist will be looking for a good concertmaster. The concertmaster and performer always work together on each piece, trying to convey to the audience all of its beauty and meaning. They must complement each other. Only then they will be successful, and those who are in the audience will get a real pleasure from music.
Он должен быть уверен в концертмейстере.
He must be sure in the accompanist that he will not let him down. Don't throw and do not muffle the sound, or vice versa. Won't play it out loud. This is such a process.
Это такой процесс щепетильный.
Not only that she's a talented musician, she has overcome many difficulties, purely technical. But then there is another thing in her, something genetic, in opera, because her father was a wonderful singer, bass especially. She knew all the repertoires and a lot of subtleties of singers.
Возрасты покорны, ее порывы благотворны, ее душа в рассвете, едва увидевшему свет, и закаленному судьбой бойцу седою
The fate of each of our heroes from childhood was closely related to art. Many of them still played with their toys at the backstage, and today they perform at the best stages of the country and the world. Each of them has already made a huge contribution to the development of Kazakhstan's theatrical art.